My daughters were watching, of course. All right. Well, science seems to be going backwards. Concepts like sex and gender have come under scrutiny, with activists canceling those who refuse to follow the new woke agenda.
So to discuss, let's bring in our custom care medical doctor, Frank Condesessa. Joining us also in studio, professor of anthropology and board member with the National Association of Scholars, Elizabeth Weiss. Thank you both for joining us here this morning.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Weiss. I want to start with you. You wrote, and others have written pieces commenting on your cancellation from the American Anthropological Association and the Canadian Anthropology Society's conference. Walk us through what's been going on.
So basically what happened was that we submitted an abstract and a panel and got accepted in July. No word from the conference about their concerns, but just a few days ago, we got an email that said that our panel was being removed from the program or canceled because it might cause harm to the trans community and the anthropological community at large.
And what was that abstract? What were you explaining in that?
Well, the panel was about the importance of sex as a variable, as something to study in anthropology. My own abstract was on biological sex and looking at skeletal remains through time and up to forensics, and how we've gotten so good at telling the difference between male and female, and just now they're starting to say you can't do that. Wow. Or you shouldn't do that.
And Dr. Frank, we joke at people questioning gender or famously not being able to define what a woman is, but is the science settled? What's your take on that, and why is it so harmful to differentiate between men and women?
Well, good morning, John and Allison. You know, this is an interesting topic, and when I heard we were going to be talking about it, it's hard to understand why discussing something is no longer part of the scientific process. All what they're doing is saying, and I read Dr. Weiss's abstract, and all they're saying is that a skeleton is binary. A skeleton is a male or a female. That's not saying that gender doesn't exist and that we can't have that discussion. But when you look back at the fossil record and at bones, the skeletons are either a male or a female. And that's useful for science in deciding the migration patterns and whatever, however they use this. But when did discussing something become dangerous? When did discussing this become harmful? I don't see how the trans community can be harmed by it. They canceled the conference because of harm that could come to the trans community. I don't see where the harm is. You can agree or disagree on one side of the argument or the other, but where's the harm? That's my question.
Yeah, and Dr. Weiss, you brought up transphobia, but why do you think the scientific community is so close-minded about this?
You know, I have my thoughts that it's likely related to this kind of postmodern agenda of, it's not important whether something is true or not, but rather it's important who tells the story, and it's a victim narrative. And in this case, the victims are the supposed victims is a trans community. And we know that this is just not a tale of victim narrative, that there is a truth. And the truth is that humans are binary, biologically, with male and female sexes. That's how we reproduce. And there should be no doubt about being able to discuss that, especially not at an anthropology conference.
Right.
Yeah, you bring up such good points. This question is to both of you. Activists seem to be pushing this woke agenda, banning anyone who doesn't agree with their opinions. Dr. Frank, I'll start with you. Where do we see this going, and do you think things will turn around? You're a doctor. I know we've talked about this, but doctors that don't think that doing sex changes, let's just be real, on children is appropriate, and they seem to be canceled.
Well, Allison, I don't really like where it's going because, again, when you halt the scientific discussion and you say, if you disagree with me, you don't even have the right to think that, then all is lost. Science is constantly evolving. I went to medical school over 20 years ago, and a lot of what I learned in medical school is now considered to be wrong. And we've evolved. We learn and we evolve our opinions, and the science evolves. But when you stop talking about it, when you say you can't even have that conversation because we disagree with you, then all is lost when it comes to science. So I don't like the direction that it's headed. We need to be able to come together as a community, as scientists, and try to convince me. If I'm wrong, then convince me where I'm wrong. Show me the evidence, show me the data.
Yeah, Dr. Weiss, same question to you. I mean, it is the science. It's talking about data and research, and it just seems that you can't have these conversations anymore.
Well, I think the modern climate in anthropology and academia in general is that dissenters are not challenged, they are canceled. They are silenced, and this is dangerous for science, and that trickles down to all sorts of applications, such as forensics, such as medicine. So it's not just theoretical. And basically, there's some times when those dissenters will be wrong, but there will be some times when the people who are dissenting are right, and we need to have the opportunity to hear those voices.
Great points. Well,
The social issues over the science,
yes,
right?
exactly. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Elizabeth
you.
Weiss, Dr. Frank Contessessa. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
of course, up next.